DC Boxing Legend Podcast. 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 Home of the champions.
Welcome to DC Boxing Legends, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's panel, we have Rashid Hammond, Marlon Parker, and myself, Ray Massey. We're doing a recap of last night's championship bout between our hometown favorite, Gary Russell, who he defended his WBC title against Magsayo, another Filipino superstar who is, by most accounts, favored to be Manny Pacquiao's heir apparent to fill that vacuum he left when he retired from boxing. So let's go ahead and get into it. Rashid.
Yeah, it was a great fight yesterday, but I really thought, in my opinion, that Curry got robbed, man. I gave him, I watched the fight twice. I watched it last night live, then I watched it again this morning with the sound down. I gave the gentleman 3 rounds. I gave Curry 9 rounds.
Okay.
Yeah, right. I based it upon hit and I get hit. I don't see a different strategy that Gary used than what Floyd do to fighters. If you was to watch that fight, he was everything Floyd do when Floyd, he did everything. Ring generalship, movement, counter punching with one punch, same thing. I thought Gary won that fight, hands down.
Right. Okay. Marlon?
Hey, gentlemen, thanks for having me on. My opinion is probably a draw. It could have went either way. I obviously I can understand Rashid's perspective. Ray, you and I were going back and forth. In full disclosure, we watched the fight together.
Yeah.
So, and at some point I was standing up trying to will Russell to win, to pull it off, but Gary put on a mask. I mean, he put on a show last night, but this guy was scoring. He was missing so many shots, and Gary was, he was just moving out of the way, slipping shots, and he was hitting them with the left. But this guy was getting these small points with, even when he would miss 3 or 4 shots, he would just tag them once or twice, not hard shots. I think, I truly believe the refs were scoring that. And, I guess as we dig a little deeper, there'll be some conspiracy theories, but we'll also have some opinions on why Gary lost that decision.
Yeah, I was definitely having some conspiracy theories off the break after the fight. I feel as though it was already a setup, in my opinion. Like, it was planned.
For me, it was a draw. I can't say Magsayo did enough to take it from the champion. And as you alluded to in your opening statements, Rashid, we've seen Floyd Mayweather do the same thing. The only difference I kind of see is that even when Floyd hurt his jab hand, he still threw it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And he used it as a marker to set up punches. It wasn't hard, but it landed, right? But Gary couldn't throw that hand at all because it wasn't at the hand, but the shoulder. It was injured.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I could really distinguish between the masterclass that Gary put on and what Floyd did. But this isn't a debate between Floyd and Gary, man, I think, and we'll probably get into it. There was a few subplots in there that I saw going on simultaneously with the fight, but you kind of alluded to it, Rashid. So I'm gonna let you talk about the first conspiracy theory.
I think it was a setup. I think they didn't want him to have that title no more. I think it was already planned out the way they wanted it. I might be wrong. You know, I'm not an insider, so you know what I'm saying. I still think it was planned to get those built from him. But I gave him 9 rounds. I mean, I literally watched the fight with the sound down because I got tired of Al Burns thing. He was way off, man. He was way off yesterday. He was irritating me. So I had to turn the same. And much respect to Al Burns thing because he, you know, Hall of Famer. But last night he just didn't. I didn't see what he was seeing. You know, I was like, hold on. And I've fought in those conditions before, so I know what it happens when you're dealing with an injury. So, and at the same time, Gary was making this guy miss. I mean, he literally, and to be honest with you, he fought a better fight with the one hand than he did with both hands. The guy was timing the jab. Yeah, he was planning the jab, and when the jab was gone, he didn't know how to deal with the counter punches that Gary was giving and the straight left hands that was coming down his pipe. So that's why I gave him that, and that was going on between round 4 all the way to round 12. Wow. I gave him every round from 4 all the way down to 12.
What about you, Marlon?
No, it was going. I think probably at the end, those were closer rounds, and the guy was a little bit more active. I mean, Gary was actually the better boxer. This guy, he was throwing and he was walking him down. Look, that still doesn't mean you're winning rounds. That doesn't translate to effective aggression. But from the momentum, just the feeling of it was Gary was injured, hobbled, giving it all, and this guy was still pulling forward. Now, look, I looked at the same fight as you guys, and this guy, he was all over the place. I mean, Gary probably could beat him any day of the week. And dude, this guy was just so green. He was getting caught with the left all night. Yeah. And he was walking right into the left. Yeah. Why wouldn't you just throw hooks and go to the side that was hurt? But yeah, it was close to me. It was really close. At one point, it seemed like Gary just started putting it together, and this guy couldn't do anything. And then it was slight shifts in the momentum. And maybe Gary didn't lose those rounds, but it plays into you can see how it plays into the whole psyche and to the people even judging.
Mm-hmm. And right. What I did was...
So in my opinion, just to go along with that, Marlon, you know me, I got my notes.
There we go.
We're talking about one of the longest, the active run by a male title holder to date. And, this guy, Gary, I believe he captured it in the title in 2015.
2015,
and correct. He made 5 successful defenses. Rashid kind of alluded to it a little bit.
It's out there.
They got tired of Gary, not fighting enough and holding the title, and I feel like they set the stage for him to lose his title. Everything down from the commentary, which is deplorable. I was sick to my stomach. You saw me, Marlon. I was like, come on, y'all. They calling hooks that didn't land. They calling body shots that were just clear misses.
Exactly.
And then when the worst part was when Gary will make a clean connect, a head snapping connect. Mm-hmm. They would say, "Oh my God, exactly. Marciago just landed a devastating." Like, what are we looking at? Like, and so I hate to see the business of boxing, and like Gary alluded to, the politics of boxing get in the way of a great experience and a great show. I think I had it very similar. I think it was 9-3. At worst, a draw. You know, come on.
I called for that draw. You remember going into,
yeah.
I called for the draw.
For the draw. But it just bothered me that it's like everybody was in on it.
I think so.
And they wanted to see Magsayo fill that void that Manny Pacquiao left. And they wanted to see him be the... Sometimes we fall in love with these love stories. The great Filipino champion just retired, and the seed of
they definitely ran with it.
Talents came back through Magsayo, and he took the title instantly.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Let's play that out though. Even if, what you and Rashid are saying, even if it had legs, Gary played his part. He shouldn't have fought. At some point, you have to know that injury. You know, either you underestimate the guy, or it's some other things there. He felt truly pressured to fight, but in hindsight, he shouldn't have fought. I mean, his heart was too big. You know, right now you have a 33-year-old fighter who has no hardware. People didn't want to fight him before. They have no incentive to fight him now. If people didn't like him, or certain people in organizations didn't really agree with him, they have no reason to bring him into the fold and pit their fighters against him. I mean, at this point, he had everything to lose.
Right.
So it's easy to write him off now. You know, he did, look, it was an amazing job. He could have won the fight. I called it a draw, but, you know, it was close. He could have actually won a fight. And a lot of people agree and think that he did win the fight. But he put himself in such a bad situation for such a great fighter. People can now actively avoid him and say, hey, why worry about him? He doesn't have a belt. Even a guy, his English seemed pretty damn good until they asked him whether or not he was going to give him a rematch. And then he needed a translator.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was pretty funny. What you think, Rashid?
Hopefully this goes into Gary's favor. You know what I'm saying? Because you never know. Like, it could be a strategy on their part too, Gary and his team. You know, in terms of trying to get some bait. You know what I'm saying? Everybody is ducking and dodging them. So maybe they see some. Maybe he gave him a chink in his armor, and hopefully they fall for it. And 9 times out of 10, I know that's not going to happen. But the fight itself was man. I was like, this was one of the worst robberies since in this area since Daryl Coley versus Overclock.
Oh yeah, I wanted to fight after that one. I was out in the street, Rashid.
Yeah, man.
I was like, bring him.
Yeah, I thought it was one of the worst robberies since Overclock versus Daryl Coley, man. It's like, if you got, what happened to you defeat the champion, you got to beat the champion.
Right.
What happened to that? You know, is that gone?
Yeah, no, but not in that same vein. Of you got to defeat the champ. I didn't think, and so I'm gonna be objective, right? If I was Gary, right, and we can always Monday night quarterback, whatever,
of course,
you know. But here's my Monday night quarterback hike. I wouldn't even. There's no added value to advertise that I'm injured, because remember they played that game with Manny Pacquiao and you'll notice in the post-fight commentary where what's the announcer's name? Schneid. I can't figure it out right. It's lost on me right now. But it's almost like he was asking them interrogation style questions probing questions about his injury so they can make a big deal about his purse or whatever, like they did Manny Pacquiao. When Pacquiao said, well, just so y'all know, I was hurt when I fought Floyd, and so that's the only reason I lost. Well, then the promotions were like, well, wait a minute, we pay you to come into the fight healthy. Right. So if you came into this fight hurt and you keep admitting it right on live TV, well, now we trying to come back and get our money, because that was part of the agreement, is that a healthy professional fighter would show up for the fight, and you showed up hurt, so you didn't live up to your part of the bargain. And let's be honest, people bet money on fights all the time. I did. I lost some money last night, but it was worth it, because Gary hometown. But my thing is, I don't think he did himself a service by. I mean, it didn't add an inch to his life to mention he was hurt, and it really, if anything, it set up a story to justify them pulling some funny business at the end of the fight.
No, Ray. I gotta disagree. Gary's a smart guy, and he walked it back a bit because he covered himself. He said, this has always been a lingering thing, and he's been fighting through it. He can always deny. He can say, hey, I've been in this situation before, so this was nothing exceptional. It just was a different outcome. The guy was pretty smart. If you look at his statement, look at his response, probably like the second or third time around when he actually said, no, this has been an ongoing thing for years.
He definitely did.
And I've strengthened it.
Yeah, no.
In this instance right here, it didn't hold up.
Yeah.
So he
kind of covered himself.
So smart. He did verbal gymnastics.
Yeah. But I could kind of see where the ring announcer was trying to go with it, trying to paint him in a corner.
Yeah, he did.
But with his own statements. I didn't like that.
Well, that guy was already hot from earlier. I mean, he caught that ref.
Oh yeah.
So come on.
Yeah,
it was just a night when boxing's integrity was in question.
Yeah.
I mean, this was on a plate. He was going to take whatever he can get last night.
He was on one yesterday.
Exactly. How you got to ride that wave? How often do you get such a storyline? So no, that was But Gary, it was a wonderful fight, and he could have easily won it, Ray. And I'm more concerned about what's next for him, because obviously he's a great talent, and what's next? Who wants to fight Gary Russell Jr.? Really, because Rashid, I know you said maybe they think it's chinks in his armor. Someone would have to be a fool, because you saw a one-handed guy. Most people believe beat another guy. Yeah. So really, what do you think he's going to do with that other hand? He's going to come out hungrier.
Now this is where the conspiracy comes into play for me. If they don't give Gary a rematch, now I know it was a setup.
They ain't give him a rematch. They don't give him a rematch.
He ain't getting a rematch.
That's not fair.
Did you see the body language?
Yeah.
That was out of the question.
That guy knew he lost.
But he's under Al now. Now this guy's over here with, if he's with Pacquiao, they with Al in some form or fashion. So if Al can make it happen, he can get that belt back for Gary if it's needed to happen. If he want Gary to be still the champion, I'm gonna keep it real. If he still want Gary to be the champion, he's gonna make sure Gary's gonna get that rematch.
But remember, this is a money sport, and nobody generated money like a power puncher like Manny Pacquiao.
I totally agree.
He's so akin to Manny Pacquiao with the power and explosiveness.
I agree.
These new fighters, man, and they're much like the promoters. They would much rather see a quick lights out performance rather than a beautiful unicorn out there boxing his ass off, and looking sharp defensively, offensively. They kind of want that blood in the water, that reckless aggression that Pacquiao boy, and not the smart general boxing. Look how they did my man Rigondeaux.
Yeah.
And dirty. I mean, he's a great boxer. If you're a boxing fan, it's beautiful to watch. I mean, hard if you're not really a boxing fan, because he's left-handed, one, and then he has great legs, so he's moving around. Last night, Gary's head movement and his legs were on display. He just showed how polished of a fighter he is.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
And if he think about it, the left hook, the right hook is his secondary cannon. I mean, I seen him knock heads off on a swivel with that right hook, and he didn't have it at all, not even a jab. Yeah. So he lost like 3-4 weapons off of that right hand alone. Yeah,
but he gained.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Rashid.
Yeah, he gained a weapon, in my opinion, when he did hurt when the injury starts, when it showed itself, because the guy was timing his jab. So now that the jab was no longer used, he was no longer using the jab, he was able to rock back and catch him, and move his head. Yeah. I literally watched the fight today and was a judge. I was a judge. I even have the numbers each round. So I was going each round for round. And as I was watching, a lot of shots. When the inside, did you think this guy hit?
No, they weren't landing. They weren't
landing nothing. I mean, if you was, if this was Floyd Mayweather, the same fight, right? If that was Floyd Mayweather fighting that same guy, Gary Russell would have became the winner that night.
Right. But Rashid, you also got to remember that those feints and those slip, those are all defensive weapons. Those aren't offensive weapons.
Yeah, but he was making them pay. He was missing making them pay.
Yeah. I'm not taking that away. But the part about defense, well, the transitional kind of movements like slipping and feinting, those are all initially defensive weapons, because when you lean back or when you do that rock is to evade, but that count as the offense. That's the other part of the movement. So I look at all those subtle movements that he was employing, and they were very effective. And like Marlon said, if you look at effective aggression, I don't think Magsayo, I don't think his aggression was effective.
The guy was green.
I thought he was reduced. It showed how unpolished he was, that he had a one-armed fighter in front of him and he couldn't do nothing with him. I mean, nothing. You had 9 rounds with a one-armed fighter and you couldn't do nothing with him. Yeah. All the way to the end. His head was snapping up into the last punch. And I was like, come on, dang it, man, this is the sad part of boxing. This is why boxing loses points. They're so obsessed with the knockout, because the knockout translates to money. Remember when Tyson was, at his peak in the 90s, money was all over the place because everybody wanted to see the knockout.
Well, they still want to see it.
But look how loved and hated defense was when it came to Floyd and especially Pernell Whitaker. Like, they hated him so bad that he got a draw against Chavez. One of the most masterful displays of defense. So I see Russell as, this may be a blessing in disguise. So I'm hopeful that he gets back on, has the surgery, takes time to heal, and they give him a shot at getting his belt back. He deserves just that much by being one of the longest reigning champions alone.
Well, can we expound on that? Everyone loves a knockout. Even when we go to Golden Gloves, we like to see them there as well. Or stoppage.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's given. It's just sells tickets. And the issue with these type of defensive fighters, they're so skilled, they're so good that their offensive output doesn't dazzle people a lot of times. If you see, they move, guys miss 4 or 5 times. They hit them with 1 or 2 shots and they do the same thing over and over. And some people don't like that. And I guess they're not boxing purists. They just want to drink a beer and get entertained. They'd rather watch these little guys just smack each other silly, stand in front of each other, smack each other silly for 12 rounds. They probably don't have the bandwidth to really, appreciate what's going on in this masterful display. Yeah. And as far as Gary, just going back to Gary getting this rematch, it's not happening. I guarantee you, that guy hopped on a plane this morning to the Philippines. Last night, he FedExed the title home.
Yeah.
You'll never see it. The title went home before he did. I guarantee you. They wrapped it in bubble wrap and they sent it.
Crazy. Man ain't even sanitized the belt. He was kissing all over that damn belt.
He's going through customs.
He definitely let it be known that he wasn't giving no rematch.
My man was speaking clean English. Boy, what he said, so what's up with that rematch? He said, Entertainment, Al Heyman,
oh man.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, that's not coming back here.
Exactly.
They terrified us, man. Hey, She, what you got, man? You want to take it away?
Yeah, I mean, man, hopefully the brother I hope he get it. If he don't get that title back, hopefully he get some fights, man, so he can feed his family and do what he do best, man. And I hope these other champions fight each other as well. Let's make this year 2022 one of the greatest years in boxing. Please, 135, 130 pounders fight each other. You have the potential to being as big as the great Sugar Ray Leonard's, Hagler's, Hearns, and Duran's. You guys are the generation of that if you fight each other. That's all I had to say, brother.
No doubt. All right. What this is gonna, you have anything closing, Marlon?
No, thank you guys for having me again. And again, it was a great fight last night. It didn't break Russell's way. It obviously could have. A lot of people say it should have. And let's just see what happens, what plays out from here. He's in my prayers, and I really do hope he gets a shot. I hope guys don't duck him.
No doubt. Hey, special thanks to our panel here, Rashid, Marlon. This concludes our episode of the Gary Russell fight recap, and we look to see you again on DC Boxing Legends podcast.
DC Boxing Legend Podcast. DC Boxing Legend Podcast. DC Boxing Legend Podcast. DC Boxing Legend Podcast. DC Boxing Legend Podcast. DC Boxing Legend Podcast. DC Boxing Legend Podcast. DC Boxing Legend Podcast. Home of the champ.